What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Got a replay that was sent to me by the homeboy Spencer Bryant, and this is, oh my god, it is ridiculous, it is disgusting, degenerative, all that stuff in a bag of chips, boys. This is essentially an unofficial FTK. You take all of your opponent's resources away, you take all of their options away, they don't get a chance to do anything. They technically don't die the turn that you end your turn, which is why I can't call it an FTK, but they really don't get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is kind of crazy because I'm still figuring out how we classify this deck, because it's like evil Gishkis meet Yang Zings meet TGs, but you don't run any TGs in the main deck, so I'm not really sure what to call it, but it's definitely a tilt-inducing deck, and it's actually even better than something like, you know, windups. I'm talking about when you actually get the full loop off. It's even better than, like, you know, full power windups from back in the day, because at least with windups, when they wind up looped you, even if they had like Avarice and they took all 5 cards out of your hand, there was a chance that you could get something in the graveyard that might help you. But with this deck, like, that's not even a possibility. Like, you don't get a chance to get Pantheism or Prime in the graveyard, because what happens with this loop is the cards go back to your deck, so you have no chance of being able to do anything. And even, I know people be like, why don't you just max C? Even if you max C this deck, you literally will deck out. It's kind of like Quasar and some of those junk Doppel decks, where now that they have like Soul Charge and stuff, they'll literally, if you max C them, they'll just laugh. They'll just deck you out, and they'll just be like, well, you shouldn't have did that. And you look at this extra deck, and honestly, it looks like a jumbled mess. You see, you're like, why would you run 5 level 12 synchros? Most people don't even run 1, and it doesn't get any better as you look deeper. It's just an absolute jumbled mess. But I can promise you this, and it sounds like a wild, bold statement, you can actually summon every single card in this entire extra deck in 1 turn, and it's going to happen in this match. And here's one of the key cards in this deck. So you don't actually run TGs in the main deck, but the TGs are necessary because of the extra deck. And this card right here, Dragonfly, Reciprocal Dragonfly, it's pretty much like mandatory in this deck, and it's one of the reasons why this deck actually can loop and it can operate, because essentially what it does is it takes a card like TG Halberd Cannon and it lets you desynchro. This card essentially is a desynchro for TG synchros. It lets you desynchro, tribute that, and then it lets you summon back all the pieces that you use to make TG Halberd Cannon, and that's how you essentially cause a loop, by having 2 of these on the field. So let me go ahead and roll this. This is going to be extremely convoluted, difficult to commentate, but I will try my best. And by the way, Konami, dude, I'm starting to think like Level Eater is just broken, because all of these like stupid degenerative summon 5 billion times in 1 turn decks, they all use Level Eater. So let's go ahead and roll it. And I think he's going to open with Unit Zombie off of Sage. He should pitch the Level Eater to gain a star, then he should end up sending Mizuki to get a star, then he'll Level Eater off of the level 5 Unit Zombie, and then he'll be able to activate, or he'll be able to go into Denlong. Denlong's such a broken card. I've been talking about how powerful this card is. Now when Denlong is summoned, he can instantly get a monster. He gets Shadow in this case, and I think he's going to send a Chi-Win to the graveyard. Keep in mind that he can Level Eat off of this card, and then he can Synchro again, and since this card was sent to the graveyard, he can summon another Yang Zing and still have the Chi-Win loaded up and ready to go. The card is ridiculous. So he is going to Level Eat. He is going to activate the effect, get that Shadow. Now he's going to end up Level Eating again. This is important because Excel Synchron can obviously send Jet Synchron to the graveyard, and Jet Synchron is a tuner. Jet Synchron plus Level Eater gets you your Formula Synchron. You know that you need Formula Synchron to go into things like, you know, TG Halberd Cannon and whatnot. So there it is, and he's doing basically that stuff. Goes into the Formula Synchron, draws a card. All right, Level Eats again, goes into Horus. Horus really, the only purpose Horus serves in here is a level 6 so that he can go into Baxia. Baxia is important here because Baxia can blow up Shadow. It can get him the Formula Synchron back. At the same time, it can trigger Chi-Win, and Shadow will trigger because it was blown up, so he can get himself another Yang Zing. So it's kind of a whole bunch of advantage that he's getting back, or not really advantage, but he's getting a full field basically off 1 pop. So you see all the Chi-Wins come back. He gets to keep on Level Eating, and he summons the first copy of Dragonfly. Again, he needs 2 Dragonflies before he really has the loop, but there's our first one right there. Let's see what he's going to do here. All right, so he has the second one. He'll go for TG Blade Buster. Then he's going to Level Eat again. Unizombie comes back. Herald of Perfection comes out. Now, it's important that Herald of Perfection comes out because Herald of Perfection essentially is needed in this. It's needed for this loop because you got to remember this loop is really done with 3 cards. It's done with, well, 3 Gishki cards, and this card will search all 3 of them. This card will get you Mine Agnes. This card will get you Gus Kraken, and this card will actually get you the Mirror that you need to obviously summon them. Now, the Mirror mirror replaces it, or the mirror is the only card that you'll need to search, because the rituals just replace themselves by putting the mirror back in the deck. So they're kind of just infinitely going to be, you know what I mean, they're infinitely going to be added to your hand. But the way that you constantly add back the mirror, so you guys are like, well, how do you keep summoning them, is by constantly using this as synchro material. So let's keep on rolling it. He brings back everything by using Dragonfly's effect. Now he brings out Coral Dragon to draw a card. Once again, he goes into the first TG Hyper Halibut can. I keep on wanting to say Hyper Librarian. And in the process, of course, he'll be able to activate the Herald of Pure Light's effect. The Herald of Pure Light will give him another Gishki. Once he gets all his Gishkis, he basically has the combo, and he has everything here. So this is what the combo essentially is, guys. As he summons Guskraken is a card that lets you, it basically lets you look at 2 cards in your opponent's hand, and then you shuffle one of them back into the deck. It's really not that ridiculous unless you can combo it and you can make a loop around summoning it multiple times in one turn. Usually you can only do it like once or twice, but if you get to summon it like, you know, 5 times, 6 times, you can take out your opponent's entire hand before they really get a chance to do anything. And, you know, he does have to use like Mind Agnes to summon it, but again, Aquamirror will just send Mind Agnes right back to his hand, and then once he decides to desynchro this and synchro back into it, the Herald of the Pure Light will actually just add the Ritual Mirror back to his hand. So he never really runs out of any of these cards. And the Mind Agnes is how you keep this whole loop going. It basically makes it so that you can keep on getting your cards, you can keep on reusing them over and over again. And right here, he basically has the loop. Again, you're just going to keep synchroing into one Halibut, and then you use the other Dragonfly to desynchro, and you just constantly do it over and over again. You get your mirror, and then you just constantly summon these 2 cards over and over again, Mind Agnes and Guskraken. And every time you summon Guskraken, you end up taking a card out of your opponent's hand. It's not the quickest thing, and that's the most unfortunate thing, guys. This is way more convoluted, and it takes way more time than the wind-up loop. The wind-up loop was at least fast, and you know, most people just scoop. Like I was playing TGs at a regional, and one time I beat wind-ups game 1, game 2 he went first, and he wind-up looped me, and once he showed me the average, I just scooped. So this is much more convoluted and much more like drawn out than the wind-up loop, but it is definitely thorough. And again, it doesn't leave your opponent with any resources. As long as you just don't F this up, this combo is pretty much infinite, and you just see constant special summons, constant desynchroing. So even if you max seed this guy, it doesn't even matter. But what's even better about this than something like the wind-up loop is, since, you know, TG Halibut Cannon is summoned with the same cards as something like Quasar or Seafer Dragon, you end up having you end up ending with one of those cards. So if you have Quasar, not only is Quasar big enough to just kill your opponent, you see he summons Quasar. When you go into the last rotation of the loop and you only have 1 card in, or your opponent only has 1 card in their hand, you want to go for a Quasar Dragon instead of Halibut Cannon, because obviously just being able to negate a spell, trap, or monster effect is just pretty damn bro. Is it monster effect or summon? I keep forgetting with Quasar if it's monster effect or something. I mean, it really doesn't matter in this case. You're just going to kill them. Like, even if they had a kaiju and they tributed Quasar for the kaiju, how would that help them? They would have literally no resources. So you see this guy gets Lone Fire Blossom, but, you know, that's just not going to resolve. And then when your turn comes around and you actually can attack, you just end up killing them. So this will be playable when Invasion Vengeance comes out in a TCG. We can't play it right now because we don't have Denlong, but man, when that card comes out, boys, Konami, look at Level Eater, man. All of these degenerate decks, they all revolve around Level Eater. That card is so ridiculous. So thank you guys for watching as always.